Hi, everyone. This is Rochelle Rizzi with Vrai, and I'm here with John Bates from Executive Speaking Success. And John and I met just a few weeks ago, actually, in the Bayou down in Louisiana. Breakthroughs on the Bayou was an event that we attended together with Tap the Potential and Dr. Sabrina Starling, the business psychologist. John was in attendance and I was just enamored with his personality and his style. And we were connected because Dr. Sabrina knew that I had an interest in improving my own speaking and my, I guess, my presentation on stage because she knows that I'm a writer and I'm always behind the scenes and I'm scripting things for other people. So John and I have connected, and I wanted him to share his thoughts with all of my community and my network. And tell us what you think we can do to make the best of this situation, and also use this as an opportunity to tell all of you what he has going on, because he has some really hot offerings right now. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Rochelle. So, I mean, I guess I could start with just who I am a little bit and where I come from.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, you know, I guess you could, the story would probably be the best way, a quick little story. This is where I'm coming from, and I think this encapsulates it pretty well. I was always the guy with the soft skills, and I always worked at startup companies in the internet space starting in 1994, and I raised several $100 million with my various companies. Never had a successful exit, so I can help you raise it, but you know, I'm not the one to give it to. But I would always go around feeling like I was less valuable than the people with the hard skills because I had the soft skills. They called what I did fuzzy, even though, you know, it brought in a lot of money. And so it was kind of awkward because I'd go around trying to prove I was valuable while I felt like I was less valuable, and it was just weird. And then in 2009, I went to the TED conference for the first time and was blown away by the power of those speeches. And I came back really lit up and excited, reignited, because I'd been basically a public speaker my whole life, but I had never been doing that. And I wanted to figure that out. So I volunteered for my friends who were running TEDx Santa Monica, one of the very first TEDx events ever. And we had this guy at one of those first events who had all the hard skills in the world. And he had a really interesting topic. I was super excited to hear him. He was the guy I was most looking forward to. And when he got up on stage and started to speak, instantaneously, almost everybody in the room checked out, including me, because he was so nervous and awkward. We all felt like we were going to throw up, and no one remembers a word he said. They just remember feeling like they wanted to crawl out of their own skin for about 18 minutes. And I remember being really sad because I'd just seen that so often. People who had so much to offer, but couldn't close the gap between their mouth and someone else's ears. And after feeling sad for a minute, of course, the evil part of me came up, and I was like, ha, 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 hard skills guy is blowing it, you know? And as I was indulging the evil part of myself, my buddy Michael Weiss came over and said, John, we got to do something to help people like this. And it really hit me like a ton of bricks. If I just got over myself for 5 freaking minutes, if I stopped honoring the chip on my shoulder and started honoring the people around me, I could totally make a difference for that guy. And that moment completely changed my life, because the thing that I did because of that moment is I went home and started to put together my coaching and leadership training, but I did it differently than I would have. What I did differently is I based it all in human evolutionary biology and human neurophysiology, which I had a great interest in, so that I could show people not only what works when it comes to communicating with human beings, but also why it works based in science. And that just completely changed my life. So, you know, because of that moment, I get to work with the people that you know about, Rochelle. Like, I train the NASA astronauts, and I've trained thousands of people at NASA. I've trained many, many, many people at places like Accenture and Johnson & Johnson and Boston Scientific and Coca-Cola and, you know, just on and on. And it's all because of that moment, because it turns out when you base it in science, it works. So that just fundamentally altered my life. And I say leadership is a function of communication. And when you understand the fundamental science of great leadership and communication, the neurobiology and the evolutionary biology of that, it just makes a fabulous difference.
And what is that equation that you always throw out there?
L equals F of C, which I'm very proud of because I'm a soft skills guy. So leadership is a function of communication. L equals F of C.
I love it. I think that that needs to be trademarked.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. I like it.
Well, you know, when I met you, it was such a brief time, but I knew that I had a presentation I was going to be giving, and I know that my voice can get a little shaky sometimes. And I said to you, you know, I'm so free. I don't know this group very well. I know my story, but I'm not really sure how they're going to perceive it. And your advice was, do you remember?
I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you tell me?
I think I gave you some of the greatest advice I have ever gotten in my life, which came from none other than Snoop Doggy Dogg, like D-O-double-G Dog back in the day. He said, "Don't be nervous, be at their service."
That's right. That's right. And it worked. My hands
it
didn't shake. I didn't quiver. And I was there to really empower entrepreneurs by sharing a very authentic story. And I really was able to show up as, you know, of service. So I'm so grateful for that. What are some of the other problems that executive leaders are coming to you trying to solve? Like, what are their major hurdles?
Well, I think that one of the issues that I have is that I think people don't even realize they have a problem. Like, I can't tell you how many of my testimonials start out, I knew I didn't need John, but I had to work with him because my management said you need to do this coaching or whatever. But then once people do it, they realize there's this whole world that they hadn't been thinking about or present to. And I mean, I really like working with people that are already good, and almost nobody that I work with needs me. But the difference that I make for them, they would never give that back, So one of the core things that I say that I think points to a problem people don't realize is there very well is communicating with human beings is not logical. Have you noticed? It's not logical, it's biological. And when you understand the biology of communication and leadership and motivation and actually getting people to take action, when you understand the biology of that, you can make it logical again. But so many really great leaders are very, very logical, and their currency is logic, and they need to think logically in their everyday functions of their business. But then when they run into human beings and communicating and inspiring and influencing, that logic does not work. If people say logic should work, well, okay, in a world where should matters, maybe it should, but it doesn't matter in this world. What's actually going on is there's biology underneath that. And if people go in thinking logic by itself will win, they'll just never, ever be anywhere near as effective as they could be if they got that there was more to the equation.
And I know that you're often asked to do keynotes with groups of people and that you do individual coaching. So, talk a little bit about what points you try to get across to a group. And then I'd love to hear more about with the individual coaching, what is their intent? So, if they don't think that they need it, what brings them to you?
So, whether it's individuals or groups, my main goal is to give people principles based in neurobiology and evolutionary biology that make them vastly more effective no matter where they are. I end up working with a lot of very effective leaders who are already very effective. But when they get these principles, they become dramatically more effective. And so I'm always trying to deliver people the core principles that they're in my Speak Like a Leader bootcamp, and those principles will make them vastly more effective. Now, sorry, tell me the rest, phrase the question. I got a little stuck. The short answer to the first part is I'm always trying to give people the principles that I've distilled about how to effectively communicate with human beings. And then I think that, when people, the rest of the question was, when people come to me, what are they up to? What do they want? And, that was really perfectly encapsulated recently when I started doing some work with Intuit. And the woman who ran HR and the whole coaching and development program for their employees at all of Intuit said it very succinctly. We were talking about one of the things that she wanted me to come help her with. And she said, John, people want to know their leaders. Mm. And I think up to a certain level of leadership, it's not as crucial that you let people have an inside look at your heart and where you're coming from and know you as a person. But if you want to go to the next level of leadership, that's just incredibly important. And people cannot get to that next level of leadership unless they are willing to share their meaningful stories and let people have a look inside at who they are and where they're coming from and what makes them tick and where their heart is at. And, so that's what people often come to me for, is assistance in stepping into that next level of what I would call authentic leadership, and finding and then really sharing in a powerful way those meaningful leadership stories about who they are. And, my next book, I've got the website already and everything. My next book is going to be called Emotional Credibility. And I think that's what executives come to me for. And it's something that I'm seeing is paying massive dividends in this moment of this crisis that we're going through as you and I talk, the COVID-19 coronavirus global shutdown. Having that emotional credibility already in place pays massive dividends. And if it's not in place, getting it in place, being willing to do what it takes to create that bond with your employees, it's even more important because now everybody's working from home. You can't walk around and make sure that they're doing what they said they would do. There's no way to police people like that. And so if you've got people connected to you as a leader and connected to the mission and the empowering context, they are going to be even more productive at home versus less productive. And it just is overall, even more important in crisis situations, but always very important.
Right. Well, and you are usually globetrotting, right? And you're showing up to do the individual and group coaching and speaking all over the world. And obviously, there you are at home, working at home just like the rest of us, with your dog in and out. And we've talked several times over the last week, and I know you're juggling as much as all of us as an entrepreneur. So I know people are coming to you right now saying, how can I show up virtually? So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the tips? Like I'll tell you, like you gave me a tip of get a new microphone. So I have a new microphone. It's not hooked up yet. I'm still waiting for my adapter for my MacBook Air, but super exciting just to make these small little incremental changes and invest in myself. And this is the time to do it. So what else are you hearing from people, and what advice are you sharing?
Well, it's funny because as we were coming into this, before this whole thing happened, my business had started to really pick up in the one-on-one executive coaching via Zoom arena. And I was starting to get almost a little bit resentful because I missed the in-person. I love doing everything in person, I think, is just more fun. And the large and small group trainings are somewhat easier that way. But then this happened and I was like, okay, universe, thank you. I get it. So I'm already doing a lot of one-on-one executive coaching and even a lot of webinars for teams and things like that. But what I'm seeing is that now that everyone's been forced into it, there's a lot of unevenness with people's experience in this, and how experienced they are, and what tools they're using, and how much they've thought about it, and how good they are at it. So, that's one thing that I'm noticing, is there's a lot of unevenness. And even people that are good at it, one of the things I realized as I started to think about this on behalf of my clients versus just on behalf of myself, is I had a really ugly background, and you could see my garbage can, and, there was all this distracting stuff. So finally I got out this background that I had gotten a while ago, and went to the trouble to iron it. That was why I didn't hang it up, because it needed to be ironed, and it took a while, but I ironed it and I hung it up. And, I had this microphone in mothballs. It's a beautiful Yeti, blue microphone Yeti, but I hadn't hooked it up. And then I hooked it up, and it was on my desk. And when I was typing, it was transferring. So I got the little arm. So I've really upped my game, because what really hit me is that your leadership presence now is all about your telepresence. So how are you showing up in these calls? Think about your background, think about your lighting. Much more important to have a good microphone than a better camera. Your camera is fine. If you're going to invest in something, get a mic. So, that's a lot of what I've been thinking about. The other big thing that I've been working with leaders on is, how do you keep your team motivated and focused and productive now that they're all at home? And, you could think of it like this: your employees are now much closer to volunteers than they ever were before, because you can't be double checking them. They're at home doing whatever they're doing. Are they still being productive? Are they still connected as a team? Do they get that what they're doing, other people are depending on? Do they get the difference they make? Are you keeping them as a leader in touch with that empowering context that has people show up as their greatest selves, versus people who have their heads down in the weeds and have forgotten all about why they're doing it, and probably aren't doing it as well as if they were in touch with that? So those are some of the key things that I've been working with leaders on, and getting them present to, is, in this world where everything that possibly can has gone virtual.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can't even imagine. I don't have any employees right now. I manage different teams for my clients. I really augment their marketing and operations, and I'm leading people, but I don't have employees. The accountability piece is huge, and it's driven by motivation.
Yeah.
And the virtual huddles every day are just, a great little asset. 5-10 minutes, just touch base.
And I've been getting that question from a lot of people. John, do you think that meeting every day is too much right now? Or is that enough? Is that too much? Right. And I'm like, well, look, okay, so be sensitive to people, but absolutely a team huddle, especially at the beginning of the crisis. Like, now that we've all been in this for a little while, people may back off a tad from that, but gosh, people miss each other. They want to see each other. They want to know everybody else is showing up too.
Mhm.
So to have those team huddles on a daily, or at least weekly, or maybe a few times a week basis, and I think the place to come from is not to check in and make sure everybody's doing their work and are you being good, but hey, how are you? We care about you. We're all here. Hey, yeah, I'm showing up on a daily basis. You're showing up. Thank you for getting that stuff done for me. It made a huge difference. That kind of an acknowledging, team building, quick little huddle on a regular basis is going to go a long way towards keeping the team cohesive. And then, the other thing that I'm really excited about is how much I'm hearing that leaders are doing many more one-on-ones now than they used to.
Hmm.
Just spending a little time individually with people on their team, because one thing that people hate is not getting immediate feedback, which is why an annual review is so dumb. That gives people no chance to course correct over the course of the year. It's once a year, and that much depends on it. That's really a dumb idea. So a lot of leaders that I'm talking with and supporting right now are doing more one-on-ones. And I'm kind of hoping that these kinds of things are things that are going to be continuing as we emerge from the other side of this crisis, because that will bring teams together, make them more productive, be a better thing in general anyway. And it's not like this is the last crisis we'll ever go through in our lifetimes.
Right. Well, and really this is a great exercise, as interesting and difficult as it is. And I've mentioned this on several of my calls. I'm a single mom of 4 kids and I am
Yeah.
homeschooling, and my significant other is here helping me right now. I have had 3 kids pop in while we're having this call because
Yeah.
everybody needs mom. Um, and it's a lot to juggle, but this particular crisis, while we may not always be working from home, is teaching us very different skills.
Yeah.
um, and I think I'm actually really grateful that my kids go through this. They're having to adjust and adapt at
Yeah.
very young ages, and maybe they can't get their arms around exactly what's happening, but I see a little leadership skills creeping in,
That's
that
fabulous.
I think are amazing. Even if they see mom on a video call, and now they're doing Zoom calls with their teachers and their classmates. So
Yeah.
they're learning technical skills. They're
Yeah.
learning how to show up. They even think about what they're going to wear before before
That's
their
cool.
call.
Yeah.
So it's bleeding into all of our lives, and I hope that it's applicable to any crisis beyond
And
this.
something else that I'm noticing that goes right along with everything you're saying is people are making more room for reality. And
Mhm.
this whole slick business, difference between business and my real life and blah, 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 that's all melting away. And
Yeah.
I think I'm seeing successful teams making more room for family. If a
Mhm.
little kid starts crying, while someone's talking, people don't get all bent about it. They're like, wow, yeah, you too,
Right.
huh? You got
Right.
kids at home, right? I mean, because people just don't have, they don't have the support around them that they're used to. A lot of people don't have a home office already set aside. The
Mhm.
kids are home when there's no childcare help available. I mean, so
Right.
it's I think there's a level of just getting real
Yep.
that could end up being a real big upside of this whole thing as we start to emerge.
Right.
And I train leaders and coach leaders and support leaders in China and in Europe. And as they're starting to emerge, especially in China, there are a lot of things that are not going to go back to the way they were because people like having that autonomy, and once they worked it out, they like working from home. Like having to work from home is different, but when they have the option, they're going to choose that option more often now. And the good teams are being more productive than they even were before. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of pain, and it's unevenly distributed, and it's not all sunshine and roses. However, there is lemonade to be made from the lemons as well.
Yeah, I agree. And from a mother's perspective, I will say that I really appreciate being able to be authentic,
Yeah.
because I have worked in places, and whether they're clients or employers, of not having the environment to support me as a mother.
Yeah.
And I think that we really are coming back to what's important, the greater picture of life. Um, and entrepreneurs really understand the energy and dedication that it takes to move the needle,
Yeah.
while also balancing everything on the home front. Whether you have kids or not, you have a dog, you have a cat, you have a
Yeah.
significant other, you have a household. It's a lot to juggle and a lot to manage and a lot to hold, especially
I
now.
mean, and if you're an entrepreneur, the thing I know about you is that you care about something bigger than yourself. You're out to make a difference. I believe the world will be saved by entrepreneurs. And, you know, entrepreneurs are typically people that are incredibly hard chargers. And what's really hard right now is Brave looks different.
Mm,
Brave is not running towards the sound of battle. Brave is holding up at home, which actually feels kind of cowardly. And to find a little grace and space for yourself as an entrepreneur, and to take this as an opportunity to get back to some self-care and some, we all talk about IQ, really important, how smart we are, EQ, how good we are with people, our emotional intelligence. What about LQ, our love quotient, especially starting with ourselves? Are you good in, that third piece? And if you're not, this is a great opportunity to really start taking some time to take care of yourself, get enough sleep so you make great decisions when you're on, you know, build some boundaries around how you're dealing with work right now. And then those things could actually make a big difference for you going forward as well.
Yeah. It's interesting that what comes to mind with the IQ, EQ, and LQ is fight or flight. And I think there's
Or,
another
yeah,
one. There's another one in there, which is just pause. You know,
right.
just pause. Don't
Yeah,
flee the scene and don't push yourself to the absolute limit. I'm finding this time as incredibly creative. Um, I do think creativity comes from some of the darkest days.
for sure.
And I am a natural optimist, sometimes to a fault. But I also am learning to pace myself. And
Yeah.
I would encourage all entrepreneurs to do that. So find things to invest in. And I definitely want you to talk about the programs that you're offering because I think it's incredibly valuable. I'm really, really enjoying and gaining just an enormous amount of value for myself as a leader in taking the boot camp. So talk to us about that. And I know you have another one that you're launching.
So the boot camp is an online course, and it is, I know that people resist online courses because I do this all day long and have for years. But when people do the course, I mean, the astronauts have told me this, top leaders at Accenture, at Johnson and Johnson, when they finally do the course, they say, John, this was a really good course. And I don't take much credit for that. The people who helped me create this were learning experts in the online course space. And they did a great job helping me put my content into digestible pieces and make it fun and everything. So I can say for sure that it's a great course and it's well done. And what's in that course are the core principles. It's actually, for anybody that's going to do coaching with me, it's the prerequisite. And they are the fundamental principles that I think are the most important when it comes to influence and leadership and getting people to take action and having people remember you and being able to get up in front of people and powerfully influence them. And what I think is really interesting is that as powerful as TV and movies and all that kind of stuff is, we are most programmed to respond to one person up in front of the group. Now it would be, in front of the group on Zoom, but that in person, as much as it can be, one person talking to the group, that's what got everything done for the vast majority of our entire history as a species. And that's what people are the most programmed to respond to. And so to get that piece better, right? Imagine a version of you that had everything you have right now, but wasn't as good a communicator. And now imagine the exact same you who had great communication skills on top of it and really understood the principles underneath them. There's just going to be a big difference between the success levels of those two versions of you. And so this course is the fundamental principles that will dramatically empower your influence no matter where you are already, whether you're at the beginning of this journey or you're already really, really good. This will give you that memorability, that influence, that impact, that power. And as you said, Rochelle, there's a lot of this that is some mental jujitsu in terms of just getting over your nerves. And I don't want people to be fearless. I want them to be courageous. Fearless is stupid and will get you killed. Courage, standing up even though you're worried your voice is going to quaver, that's real courage. And that's what's inspiring. And that's what it takes. So, the Speak Like a Leader bootcamp, you can see what people say about it online. And what I want to do, because of what's going on, is the first 25 people that register, I'm going to make this live probably about when this comes out. The first 25 people who register, I'm going to give a free 40-minute one-on-one coaching session to after they finish the course. And that will be dramatically valuable to them in how they apply what they got in that. I'm going to help them find the most direct, most immediate, most important and powerful way to apply that. And then I'm also going to give people 6 months free of my monthly group coaching calls around the Speak Like a Leader Bootcamp, because I want people to do this and I want them to make the most of it. And I promise from the bottom of my heart that if people give this its due and they do this course and take it to heart, it will change their lives in ways they cannot even believe right now for the rest of their lives forever.
That's powerful. And I believe you. I'm already seeing major strides and I'm just a few modules in.
That's
So
fabulous.
breaking down barriers for myself, looking at what is my vision, what do I imagine doing with this. It's so much fun. And
Fabulous.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity to invest in myself in this way. So thank you for that and sharing your talents. So it's worth every penny.
You're super welcome. And thanks for the opportunity. And then, uh, the other things that I'm doing, just so people know, I'm doing a free, no cost global leadership synchronization call, which you can find at my website, executivespeakingsuccess.com. Go there, click on the COVID-19 link, and it will take you to two things. One is this free global synchronization call. It's super valuable. It's free. It's weekly. I change the times on Thursdays so that different parts of the world can come in more easily. And I've had senators on the call. I'm going to have a health and wellness expert on the call, but mostly what it is, so first up, it's great value. And then it's checking in with leaders all over the world, which is even more valuable. And it's also just really great connection.
Absolutely.
So that's absolutely free. And then I'm also launching a course very soon called, Great Virtual Leadership, like in a time of great uncertainty and crisis. And that's going to be focused on some of the things we talked about earlier, your presence in the virtual realm and how to lead teams well when they're distributed, and all the issues that we're dealing with as this whole shutdown has just changed everything. And that course is going to have a price tag. I will also be happy to give people partial or full scholarships to that course. If they can't afford that course, I don't want it to stop them from taking it. So those are the other things that I'm making available, and would love to have people join me in any or all of them.
That's awesome. And I know you're also still open to speaking to groups virtually right
I've
now.
actually been doing that. I've gotten a bunch of requests to come in
Good.
and do some kind of reality checks, motivational, but also grounding and sharing with people some of the insights I've been getting from leaders all across the world around this. So I've actually been doing quite a bit of that already, and I love doing it. They turn out to be really great events, and it's a wonderful thing to show your team that you care about them and you're thinking about them and you're still interested in their growth and development.
Yeah.
And I very consciously do things that will bring the team together and get them back in touch with the empowering context for what's going on, and decrease the fear and that kind of stuff. So I'm super open to that. Would love to be able to provide that to anybody that felt like that would make a difference, and have been doing that quite a bit, and hearing that it makes a difference.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to congratulate you on all of your successes, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sharing your talents. And I really hope that we're able to help other entrepreneurs through this time, and that in return, we can drive some business your way. So
Well,
any closing thoughts from you, John?
I I'm the thing that I'm thinking about at this very moment is, how can I make a difference, and how can I do the right thing, whatever that is. And what I'm hearing from the people I'm supporting in places like China is that the return they're seeing in terms of goodwill and appreciation for the fact that they just did the right thing in the moment of crisis is huge. And I, like the Queen recently said in her address, the Queen of England, I want to look back on, we'll all remember where we were, and we'll all remember who we were being and who other people were being. And I want to look back on this time and be proud of who I was and what I brought. And, you know, that's the thing that's really driving me. And that realization that this is a moment in history we'll never forget can be a powerful tonic to the fear and what should I do and the worry. It's not going to solve every problem, but it's certainly a good guide as you face difficult decisions.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lot about that love quotient, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. I
yeah,
agree.
human to human. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much, John. I will make sure to list all of those resources you mentioned. I'll put it at the end of the video and I'll list it in any of the social media platforms we use. So thank you so
Great.
much for your time
You're
today.
super welcome. You're super welcome. Thank you, Rochelle, for having me.
Bye.
And cheers to everyone out there who's an entrepreneur, putting yourself on the line to make this a better world. Thank you.
Yes, big gratitude.